you for joining us on Savvy Senior Sources, Talking with Experts. Let's take a moment and hear from our sponsors, GWG Life and Reverse Mortgages SIDAC.
What is the secondary market for life insurance? The secondary market for life insurance is an emerging financial market that provides individuals options with their policies. These options allow policyholders to benefit from the value of their life insurance. Policies are sometimes a financial burden, especially for seniors, as premiums often increase over time. The secondary market offers financial alternatives that can help policyholders benefit from their life insurance now.
Hi, I'm Beth Paterson, a certified reverse mortgage professional with Reverse Mortgages SIDAC. Bob's wife passed away, meaning his Social Security income was cut in half. His financial advisor suggested he look into a reverse mortgage. With the reverse mortgage, he was able to take a dream vacation with his nephew, and oh, the stories that they can share. After Bob passed away, his niece shared the difference that it made to the whole family. Dorothy did the reverse mortgage in order to protect her other retirement funds. With her line of credit, she was able to travel, buy a new car, and do home repairs. Years later, she's still benefiting from the reverse mortgage line of credit and not having to rely on her children. For more information on how you too can have security, independence, dignity, and control, contact us. Hi, welcome to Savvy Senior Sources, Talking with Experts. Savvy Senior Sources guide your way through resources A to V with the TV shows as well as with our resource guide, the Savvy Senior Sources Guide. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsors, GWG Life and Reverse Mortgages SIDAC, for making the show possible. On today's show, we are talking about securities fraud. I'd like to welcome my co-host, Deb Nygaard from Arthur's Residential Care.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
And our guest today is Mark Santi, who is an attorney with Thompson Hall, Santi, Cerny, and
Katkoff.
Katkoff. Thank you.
Yeah.
A Minneapolis firm.
Absolutely.
So, welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start out by identifying what is securities fraud.
Sure, you bet. And a little background about me. I'm an attorney who's practiced in Florida and New York and now here in my home state of Minnesota. We're primarily a business law firm, but I'm really passionate about representing investors who've been swindled.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of financial illiteracy in this country. People save their money, they make good decisions with their money in terms of not spending it, but then what do you do when you save it? You entrust it to someone else. And how does that person treat you? That's what we're going to talk about today. Securities fraud has to do with broker or financial advisor misconduct. Okay. And we can talk about what a broker and a financial advisor is.
Let's identify that.
The terms do get really confusing. A broker is someone who helps you buy and sell securities like stocks.
Okay.
An advisor is someone who advises you on an overall financial plan. Now, sometimes a person is a broker and a financial advisor. Mm-hmm. And that becomes important later in terms of what duties they owe you, the customer, the investor.
Okay. And there's a difference also between financial advisor and financial planner? You want to touch on that
they use a lot of different terms, but generally it all boils back down to that's the person who's giving you financial advice in return for compensation. They're typically compensated on a fee, or they receive a commission, or they receive both.
Okay.
And like any industry, most people in that industry are very good people and very good at what they do, but there are some bad apples. And that's where I come in to try to help remedy the situation caused by those bad apples.
Okay. Yeah, and in the reverse mortgage industry, we find that too. Generally, they're good, but you can always have one bad apple, and the old saying of one bad apple spoils bushel.
Right.
So don't be afraid of working with those people. Don't keep your money under the mattress. But
Right.
Right, and I'll explain some ways to hopefully check up on your advisor or broker
Good.
and make sure they're good at what they do and haven't faced too much discipline. So we'll go over some tips like that.
Now,
Sorry,
has securities fraud become a big problem then, or?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to mention. We have a little bit of a perfect storm here because we have the investor on one hand. They've saved money their whole life. They're seniors. They're looking to retire. They're already retired, and they want to live off the income from those investments, right? But what's happened to interest rates lately?
Right.
They're very,
They're
very low, right?
Right.
So it's difficult to live off your investments. So we have investors who are what we call reaching for yield. They want more money from their investments. They want a higher rate of return,
Sure.
and so they reach for risk to get that higher rate of return. On the other hand, we have advisors and brokers. It used to be when they would trade a stock, they would receive a large commission, maybe $100, maybe $600. That doesn't exist so much anymore because you can go online and trade a stock for $7.95.
Right.
So on the other hand those brokers and advisors are perhaps tempted to look for more exotic products that have higher commissions. So you have this melting pot here of people looking for more and more risk. And at the same time, we have our baby boomers and our seniors with substantial savings in jeopardy if people want to commit misconduct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about going online and doing some investment.
Right.
How wise or how safe is that?
Well, it's generally pretty safe, but you may not know what you're doing in terms of investing, and that's when you rely on financial professionals, someone who can tell you how to properly allocate your portfolio. You need those people to do their job and to help advise you on your finances and how it can meet your needs for the rest of your life.
Okay, yeah, because I wouldn't have any clue what I was doing if I was
Right.
going to go online and do something. So
right.
it's getting to know who is a good
Right.
advisor.
So does the problem arise then when that financial advisor wants you to take more risk than you're comfortable with in order for them to make more money, or?
Yeah, sometimes. Often the motive behind misconduct is a financial benefit. You know, it's
Sure.
pretty easy to guess.
Yeah.
And that may come in the way of commissions from an exotic product. When I say exotic, it could be an oil and gas limited partnership or a real estate investment trust or phrases that you've perhaps never even heard of anymore. And it's peddled, it's sold as a safe investment that will give you a steady return, and you sign a stack of documentation saying you understand this investment and all the disclosures have been made to you, but at the end of the day, you're probably trusting your financial advisor to put you in a safe investment. And we could talk about some of the common areas of misconduct, which might help explain it better.
Yeah, why don't you expand
Sure.
on that a little
yeah,
bit? I think, before you get into that, I'm thinking of a woman who had done a reverse mortgage and pulled out a good portion of her reverse mortgage funds to buy or invest in macadamia nuts in from South America or something, and lost all of her money. And then they questioned, well, what about the reverse mortgage? Well, it had nothing to do with the reverse mortgage.
Right.
It's her choice on
That
how she
investment.
spent that money, which was not wise. Fortunately, her advisor had helped her buy some annuities, but also had some other money in the line of credit with the reverse mortgage. So she had other options and plans, but still,
Sure.
it's people who make the...
Right. So it helped that she was diversified, and it helped that there was a good advisor in place to protect her a bit.
Yeah, but she still made the decision on her own.
Yeah.
So that's
Sure.
an example. So now
Right.
explain some of the other...
Sure. One of the most common claims we see is called unsuitability. The broker or the advisor, under state law, regulatory rules, and federal law, have an obligation to put you in investments that are suitable for you. And the question is, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, there's a two-step process. First, they have to determine if the investment is suitable for anyone. Perhaps it's a terrible product that's never going to work. That would not be suitable for any investor. But let's say they determine that this product is suitable, this investment is suitable. Then they have to do a second analysis, the broker or the advisor, and they have to say, is it suitable for this investor? And they look at several different factors. how old the investor is, what the time horizon for the investment is, what the tax circumstances are, what the sophistication of the investor is. And it's absolutely that broker's obligation, really no matter what the investor wants, to ensure that the investments that the broker is recommending are suitable, period. It's their obligation. So for instance, if a broker were to place a senior who really needs her money to live off of in penny stocks, that would likely be unsuitable.
What is penny stock?
Sure, penny stocks are defined as stocks that are below $5 a share, but as the regulators have recognized, there's a big propensity for fraud with some penny stocks, because the argument can be made that, well, the penny stock only costs 5 cents, and if it were to go up to 10 cents, then you would double your money, and people get excited, but the underlying fundamentals of those companies are oftentimes very poor, and so they're dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah. Another common claim is a breach of fiduciary duty. Fiduciary duty is actually the same duty that I owe to my clients. It's a duty of loyalty. It's a very high duty to act in their best interest. Now, it's clear that financial advisors owe that duty to their customers. Brokers, on the other hand, argue they actually don't owe that duty to their customers, which is kind of shocking if you think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they think that commissions are sort of their main focus, perhaps. The White House currently and the SEC is pushing for legislation to say that brokers need to act in the best interest of their customers. So if we determine that a broker didn't, we file a lawsuit and try to recover the money.
Okay.
More typically in arbitration, actually, which we can talk about
I'm
later.
just a little shocked that they don't have fiduciary responsibility.
Well, we certainly argue that
so
they do, and there is some case law
they
to support
should,
that, but
yeah.
it needs to be clarified.
Oh, totally interesting. So how does the securities fraud impact seniors themselves? If they come to you and they're not sure about the investment that they did?
Sure, it has a great impact on them. They may find that they don't have expenses, or they don't have money to pay expenses, the money that they were counting on. I have clients who aren't able to pay their medical bills. I have clients who aren't able to afford senior housing because there's been some fraud in their accounts. And really, I see situations where a person's entire life savings will be perhaps cut in half. So they come to me, and by the way, they often come to me through good advisors and good brokers who want to keep the industry on the up and up, and recognize that perhaps a former advisor or broker did not do what they should. So they contact me, and I meet confidentially, of course, with the potential client, and I look over their account, and I'm always happy to do that for free, and explain to them whether or not they may have a claim under often FINRA rules. And
what is FINRA?
FINRA is something that most people have not heard about, which is striking, because if you lose, say you lost your entire life savings to a financial advisor, you would not be able to go into court to get that back. You would not be able to go in front of a judge or a jury of your peers to get that back. You would probably go to a hotel conference room and have a panel of arbitrators decide whether or not you get your life savings back. And that really surprises people.
Wow.
And the reason for that is in your account agreement, the stack of documents that you signed, you agreed to arbitrate. And those agreements are binding. And that's another thing that the government, the legislature is looking at. Should that be banned? Should those mandatory agreements be banned?
Okay.
But for now, you're off to the hotel conference room to try to get the money back.
What does FINRA stand for?
Sure. Financial Industry Regulatory Authority.
Okay, good.
Now, they're a self-regulatory organization, meaning the industry, the brokerage industry, funds an organization to watch over the brokerage industry. Seems kind of like a big circle, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so there's always this question of, is there complete independence?
Right.
And a group of lawyers like myself are always trying to improve that process. And FINRA does a lot of things well, but there's that inherent fear that, well, you're paying another industry to watch over you, so perhaps they don't bite the hand that feeds them.
Yeah.
Now, some time ago you mentioned that you could help people to find a good advisor.
Sure.
Because I would be very interested in avoiding any any problems. So how can seniors avoid these?
Absolutely, and it goes back to some of the things FINRA does pretty well.
Okay.
They have a system called Broker Check. So if you simply type into Google FINRA Broker Check, there'll be a simple, easy-to-use database that allows you to search your advisor or your broker's name. And then a clear report will pop up, and it will show the disciplinary history of that broker.
Okay.
Now advisors, it gets a little complicated, but advisors are often regulated by either the state or the federal government. So you may have to search in your state's Department of Commerce website to determine if there's any malpractice against your advisor. But BrokerCheck is a pretty good central hub for determining if there's been misconduct by your broker.
Okay. And I want to come back to you. You meet with people, free initial consultation, you said is free.
Right.
And obviously you charge. We all need to make a salary.
Sure.
But I know sometimes seniors are afraid to contact an attorney because of the high cost, quote unquote, high cost. But so you get paid, obviously. But if somebody comes in and they've lost everything to securities fraud, they're still better off coming to an attorney.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about that.
For many reasons. One, there's statute of limitations and eligibility rules that may likely apply to these cases. So you need to speak to someone sooner rather than later. A mistake I often see is, well, I wrote a letter to the Department of Commerce, or I wrote a letter to FINRA, and I think they're doing something about it. But as the Department of Commerce and FINRA or the SEC will tell you, they may do a disciplinary action, but you need to pursue your own individual action.
Sure.
So it's important to come in as early as possible. We're also flexible. We understand that people don't want to throw good money after bad, so to speak. A nice thing about arbitration is the fees are generally pretty low, the costs, I should say. Attorneys' fees, we're flexible. Sometimes we do hourly, sometimes we do contingency, where we only receive a portion of your winnings, otherwise nothing else, in terms of fees. Or we do a hybrid, a mix of those two different things. But you're very right that people are hesitant. I noticed that with this niche in particular, people are very embarrassed to come forward.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I always hear the same story. They're embarrassed. They trusted this person. And it's sad how identical the story is that I hear. And people listening to this might have heard this story too. They say the broker was a part of my community. The broker was in the industry for a long time. The broker would come to my house. The broker went to my church. The broker is someone that I and the community really trust.
Yeah.
And so there's no way they could have done this to me. I'm sorry to tell you, I see it every day. It happens.
It does.
Things happen perhaps in the broker's life. They make a series of bad decisions, but that should not result in you losing your life savings.
Right.
Right. So how can they avoid securities fraud?
Sure. One simple thing to do, well, it's actually not that simple, is to look over your account statements, right? Because those can be a little bit confusing. Or trade confirmations. The broker's required to send you a confirmation of every trade that occurs. So you want to look over those account statements, and if you don't understand them, if you don't understand what's going on in your account, you need to raise a red flag and come and talk to someone like me. For instance, churning is a common claim. That's where there's many, many trades in the account, and that's being done to generate a lot of commissions.
Oh, okay.
But your best interest is not at mind. The churning and the commissions are taking precedence. So you might be able to detect a lot of trades if you see that in your account. And generally, advisors and brokers are not permitted to do any trading in your account unless you authorize that specific trade. Unless you're in a discretionary account where you've told them they can do that. And I would tend to recommend against those discretionary accounts.
Yeah.
What would be other red flags that they would look for if they're looking at their statement?
Sure. Another huge red flag are statements that are generated by your broker. You know, spreadsheets, handwritten statements. Your money should technically be kept with a custodian. If you notice on your statements, they should be coming from a third party, a custodian. That's where your money and your investments actually sit. And it's important to create that separation, right, between your advisor and your broker and that custodian. So if any handmade statements are being sent to you, that's a big red flag, right? Because the broker could write anything he or she wants on that statement, and you won't know if it's true.
Anything else that they should be looking for?
Sure. Keep an eye out for exotic investments. If you don't understand the investment, if you can't comprehend the acronyms that are being used or the technicalities, perhaps you're in too deep. I think we all have a general sense of what safe investments are, and if you're uncomfortable with the investments that are being recommended to you, that's a pretty big red flag, and you should consider seeking a second opinion.
Okay.
One more point to bring up there, there's a group of cases called selling away, and it's kind of a strange term, but the broker is selling away from the products that their firm has vetted and researched and recommended. And that might be in the form of a promissory note that's placed at a bank. And so the pitch to the investor is, well, I have this promissory note that will guarantee you an 8% return, and it's with this bank, so everything's legitimate. And they're writing this on the letterhead of the brokerage firm that they work for, so you think you're still doing business with the brokerage firm when actually you're working with a side project of the broker. And you're getting involved in something that you really have no idea about. And the bank, it's simply an account at that bank. The bank is in no way endorsing this investment that you're making. So that's called selling away. It's pretty much...
How do you tell that it's happening?
Well, that scenario that I described, if you hear something similar to that,
okay.
Where it just doesn't sound quite right, or it sounds too good to be true, or you're starting to deal with third parties, your custodian's okay. But when you start dealing with other third parties,
listening to the gut, listen to your gut.
Absolutely, listen to your gut. Don't just trust.
Yeah. And it may not be bad, but if something feels or doesn't seem right, then go check it out and see.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy just to make a call to an attorney like me who will probably look over your documents for free.
Okay, and that's good to know. Talk a little bit about the arbitration, that process, what happens with that. We only have a couple minutes left.
Sure.
But let's kind
No, it's a really good question. My clients oftentimes have not hired a lawyer before or have not been involved in any litigation or arbitration. The good thing about arbitration is it's fairly easy on the client. I draft the client's story. I tell that story in a statement of claim. They verify that story is accurate, and then we file it. And the process takes about a year or a little more, but a lot of that is waiting. A lot of that is allowing me to do my work, to gather documents from the other side, to craft legal arguments. And many of these cases settle, so you may never have to testify at all. But if you do, if the arbitration hearing comes up, there will be a panel of 1 to 3 arbitrators, and you will explain your case to them. I will walk you through telling your story. And the other side will have a chance to cross-examine you, like you see in the movies, but I would be there to protect you and would likewise cross-examine the other side. So it's a fairly easy process for the claimant. I shoulder most of the burden. That's my job.
Okay.
I worry about the case, but I always communicate very closely with the client so they know what's going on.
And 2 things. How does somebody find, and obviously we have your information available for people, but in another state or something like that, how does somebody find an attorney that specializes in securities fraud and know that they can trust the attorney because...
Yeah, I'll selfishly say that because this is arbitration, I can handle cases mostly nationwide.
Okay.
Sometimes we have to partner up with attorneys in other states. But if you would like a local attorney, I'm a member of a bar association called PIABA, the Public Investors Bar Association. It's a group of attorneys around the country, and there's not too many of us who are really interested in this, but there's a group of us who share our ideas, share our research, communicate on a daily basis to help represent investors. And so PIABA, PIABA.org, has a Find an Attorney link right on their homepage. So PIABA.org.
Okay, we'll put that on the screen too.
Yeah, sure. And those are good attorneys typically. They're people who are really interested in this subject matter and who are really keeping up with the latest developments.
Okay.
And so I would start there.
Okay, great. some great information today.
really was. Thank
I
you.
learned some things that I didn't know
Good.
before.
Yeah, a lot of
And
people don't know about
in
this.
conclusion, people should be, if something's not feeling right, reach out and talk to somebody and get a second opinion
Yeah.
to see where they're at.
Sure.
So,
I'd be happy to speak with them.
great. Thank you, Mark Santi from Thompson Hall Santi, Kearney, Cerny, and Cat Cove.
You've got it.
So, great. Thanks for being here and sharing all the information.
Thanks for
Thanks,
having
Mark.
me.
And thanks, Deb
Yeah.
Nygaard from Arthur's Residential Care for being my co-host today.
Thank you.
And don't forget to visit SavvySeniorSources.com for access to resources. Thank you for joining us. And a final thank you to our sponsors, GWG Life and Reverse Mortgages SIDAC.
Provide for your long-term care. Convert your life insurance towards payments for long-term care. If you are concerned about future health care, you can convert your life insurance to pay for home care or assisted living. Health problems can be stressful enough without the added burden of financial obligations. If you feel that you no longer need your life insurance policy, you may want to apply the value towards long-term care.
Hi, I'm Beth Paterson, a certified reverse mortgage professional with Reverse Mortgages SIDAC. Mike and Carol decided that they needed a one-level home to fit their changing health needs. They used the reverse mortgage to purchase their new home instead of using conventional financing. This has benefited them greatly. Barbara decided to do a reverse mortgage to pay off her conventional loan that she was making monthly payments on. She had funds left in the line of credit after paying that off. And a year or so later, when she fell and broke her shoulder, she was able to tap those lines of credit to pay for her home care. As she said, she would have been up the creek without a paddle without the reverse mortgage. If you'd like information on how to receive security, independence, dignity, and control in your retirement years, contact us.